In the beginning, a noble lady beats a maid with a whip, causing her to scream in pain. The lady questions the maid, expressing her frustration at being provoked. The maid apologizes, but the lady internally decides that the apology is irrelevant. She feels compelled to punish the maid, though she questions her own motivations. Meanwhile, other servants whisper amongst themselves, shocked by the scene. They discuss the lady's tendency to mistreat blameless servants like Mary. The lady, ignoring their chatter, remains resolute in playing her role. Suddenly, she realizes something odd about her role. Despite being a noble and a marchioness with immense power, she experiences a sharp pain in her head and a sense of being compelled to behave in a cruel manner. She questions why she's acting so mean-spirited. Abruptly, she stops her actions, leaving the maid trembling with fear. The lady drops the whip and instructs the maid to leave, indicating that she's had enough punishment. The maid agrees, eager to comply with the lady's command. The lady reflects on her recent behavior, realizing that she's been under some form of control. Disturbed, she ponders in her chamber, feeling a mix of anger and confusion. She contemplates venting her frustration by causing chaos or punishing the servants who have been looking at her disapprovingly. However, she recoils from these thoughts, realizing that this isn't what she truly desires. Just then, the lady experiences a flashback, recognizing herself in past memories. She questions why she acted against her will, particularly when she didn't want to harm the maid. Suddenly, she hears a voice urging her to continue tormenting others and asserting dominance. Frustrated, she yells in defiance, refusing to comply with the voice's demands. She asserts her true desires, declaring that she never wanted to be a bad person and refuses to continue living in such a manner. The lady hears voices, one of which ominously predicts a freezing cold splinter of ice piercing her heart. Bewildered, she wonders who whispered those words to her. Puzzled, she questions why she's been so cruel all this time. Feeling a sense of shame, she wonders if she was driven by madness. Our female lead, Noelle Linnell, notorious marchioness known for her hostility and viciousness, both in high society and within her own manor. She has just become aware of this aspect of herself. Noelle reflects on her past actions, realizing that she must have been completely out of her mind. However, she feels fortunate to have regained memories of her past life. She understands that she has been reincarnated as one of the characters in a romance novel, which explains her current situation. Before her memories returned, she felt compelled to torment people, as if someone else was controlling her actions. She acknowledges the mystery behind this, but sets it aside for the moment as there's a more immediate concern. Her role as Noelle Linnell, a wife of Rupert, the male lead of the novel. Suddenly, Rupert enters the room, startling Noelle. She expresses her surprise and questions his sudden appearance. Reflecting on their relationship, she acknowledges Rupert Linnell as the male lead of the novel and her husband. She describes him as a cruel man known as the Warmonger, who has never lost a battle and is surrounded by rumors of his armor always being wet with blood. Despite his reputation, this is a romance novel, and even the Warmonger is destined to find true love. However, Noelle hesitates to confirm if she is indeed his one true love. Noelle questions Rupert about the urgency of his visit, but he rebuffs her casual use of his name, indicating their lack of closeness. Noelle reflects on their relationship, acknowledging the obvious distance between them. She responds respectfully, addressing him as Marquis Rupert Linnell. Rupert then confronts her about splurging her stipend and whipping a servant, instructing her to come to his office for a discussion. Noelle realizes the gravity of her situation. She is Rupert's vicious wife, and the most pressing issue is that in about a month from now, Rupert will kill her and her daughter. She feels a sense of urgency to prevent this fate from unfolding. As Rupert walks down the hallway, his daughter watches him from hiding. Noelle reflects on the sudden return of her memories from her past life, questioning why such an event occurred, especially in the midst of a violent act like whipping someone. She wonders if there was a specific reason for it, but decides she doesn't have time to dwell on the details. Instead, she focuses on recalling what she can about the novel. Noelle reflects on the plot of the novel, which revolves around the love story of Rupert and Aisha Wren, the female lead who aspires to become a knight. In the novel, Aisha runs away from home to pursue her dream and joins the Raven Knights, the Order of Knights under Marquis Linnell, while disguised as a man. However, Noelle realizes the irony of her situation. The events in the novel occur after her character is murdered by her husband. She finds this notion absurd. Anxious, she acknowledges her flaws as a wife, but is horrified by the idea that Rupert would murder his own family. She questions how someone like him could be the male lead in the story. Needing to calm herself, she considers her options regarding her husband, realizing that their relationship is at its lowest point. Reflecting on their arranged marriage, she recalls that it lacked any hint of love and was purely a political arrangement. 7 years ago, at the age of 20, Rupert became the head of the household by surpassing all his siblings, yet he lacked legitimacy as the Marquis. To secure his position, he made a deal with her family in exchange for marrying her. She recalls her initial feelings of hatred towards Rupert because he inherited the title as an illegitimate heir, which she found cliché. Their meeting was a classic tale of an arrogant girl from noble origins clashing with the Marquis, an illegitimate son. From the outset, she made no effort to hide her contempt for him, and her hatred fueled the rocky relationship. Furthermore, she acknowledges her extravagant tendencies and frequent mistreatment of the servants, causing trouble wherever she could. In summary, she describes herself as the insane bitch of the household. Excitedly, she realizes that the typical plot of a wife consoling her husband about his painful past and them eventually falling in love doesn't apply to her situation. She acknowledges herself as the most terrible character in the scenario. Suddenly, frustration overwhelms her as she wishes to disappear. Despite this, she blushes, realizing that she never meant any harm. Understanding why Rupert started to hate her, she reflects on his reluctance to let her call him by his name. Unsure of what to do, she feels the pressure of time as the story is about to unfold. She feels a sense of fear as she realizes she could be eliminated from the story soon. However, she understands that she can't simply tell Rupert that she didn't want to do the things she did. She doubts he would believe her. Realizing her role as the hated wife of the warmonger before his transformation, she resolves to make amends for her actions. She decides to start by working on improving Rupert's hostility towards her. Fortunately, her regained memories also provide insight into future events, which she hopes to use to her advantage. For now, she focuses on understanding why Rupert called her into his office. Null takes a deep breath and knocks on Rupert's office door. Rupert invites her in, and she nervously enters. Rupert confronts her about the incident involving the maid, suggesting that she whipped her because her hair got tangled. Null denies this accusation, feeling that something isn't right. She reflects on the situation, realizing it's a misunderstanding, and clarifies that she punished the maid for stealing. Rupert expresses his concern, acknowledging the maid's status as a servant but questioning if Noel's punishment was too harsh. Noel reflects on the situation, realizing that the other servants likely spread rumors about her punishment without understanding the truth. She wonders if someone is deliberately spreading negative rumors about her, considering her numerous enemies. When Rupert asks for clarification, she responds, admitting that the maid tried to steal her necklace. Despite recognizing the severity of stealing, she feels embarrassed at having resorted to whipping someone for it. Rupert smirks, implying that Noel's attempts to deny the accusations are pointless, as he has already received reports from witnesses. This revelation leaves Noel stunned. Rupert questions why she bothered lying, insinuating that this behavior isn't new for her. Noel reflects on Rupert's lack of trust in her, realizing the need to improve their relationship despite feeling like she has no other option. She believes that arguing with Rupert won't be beneficial, as he seems unlikely to believe her anyway. She recognizes that the priority is to demonstrate that she has changed. Noel admits that her actions were too harsh, surprising Rupert. She resolves to have a doctor attend to the maid and compensate her, acknowledging the severity of her actions and feeling remorseful for whipping her to the point of bleeding. Noel makes a promise not to punish the servants again, but Rupert remains silent. Instead, he questions how she plans to compensate the maid when she has already spent her entire stipend within a week. He informs her that he has no intention of giving her more money since she squandered it. Noel feels nervous as she realizes she has no money left due to her lavish spending. She considers selling her jewelry to solve the problem but hesitates, wanting to prove to Rupert that she is capable of more than just selling her possessions. Noel suggests that she will earn the money herself, but Rupert scoffs at the idea of her being capable of earning money. He questions how she plans to do so, doubting her understanding of how people make money. He grabs her hand, expressing disbelief that she could handle a sword or go into battle to earn money. Noel admits that she can't make money the same way Rupert does. Noel reflects on Rupert's assessment of her character, acknowledging that Noel Ainel knows how to spend money but lacks the knowledge of how to earn it. Despite this, she believes that by combining her experience of living in a capitalist society with the information she possesses, she might be able to come up with a solution. She doubts Rupert will take her seriously but feels she has no other options and decides to give it a try. With a smile, she addresses Rupert as Lord Ainel and asks if he would lend her some money. Rupert questions Noel's request to lend her money, reminding her that she won't receive any more stipend. Noel clarifies that she wants to borrow money and suggests drafting a promissory note. Rupert, in a serious tone, expresses suspicion about her intentions. Noel reflects on the expected response, acknowledging their strained relationship and the unlikelihood of Rupert lending her money without reason. Despite this, she resolves to continue pushing for a solution. Noel asks for a chance to explain her plan, but Rupert demands to know what she's up to. Noel is unable to provide an answer, prompting Rupert to ask her to summarize her scheme in 10 words or less immediately, or else he'll have her sent out to spare himself from her nonsense. Feeling anxious, Noel reflects on the possibility that this might be her last opportunity to speak. Rupert interrupts her thoughts, indicating that if she can't summarize her plan, she should leave. Nola quickly states her desire to invest in land, surprising Rupert. She realizes that he doesn't understand her idea. Nola reflects on her plan, acknowledging her reluctance to bring up the investment at such an early stage. However, she feels pressed for time. She understands Rupert's nature well. He values reason and efficiency and eliminates obstacles without hesitation. Given his hostility toward her, she fears for her safety and believes appealing to his emotions would be futile. Rupert questions Nola's understanding of investment and dismisses her, instructing her to leave. Nola insists that her plan won't be a waste of his time, swearing by her honor. Reflecting on the situation, she realizes it would be more effective to demonstrate her worth by producing quick and indisputable results, ensuring that Rupert remembers her capabilities. Nola insists on having a chance to explain her plan and requests Rupert to call in his aide, Orden, as well. Rupert remarks on her unusual behavior and agrees to hear her out. He rings the bell to summon Orden as per Nola's request. Orden enters the office in response to Rupert's call. Nola reflects on Orden's opinion of her, perceiving him as someone who views her without class or dignity. Despite this, she acknowledges his objectivity and ability to remain impartial. She requested Rupert to bring him in because she believes it will be easier to persuade Rupert if Orden supports her plan. Nola declares her intention to get straight to the point, indicating a specific stretch of land on the map that she plans to buy. Orden remarks that the area is barren and unsuitable for farming. Rupert expresses his skepticism, believing that Noel doesn't comprehend the concept of investment. However, Noel remains confident in her understanding. Rupert points out the drawbacks of the area, noting its lack of fertility, absence of a nearby river, and the absence of advantageous high ground for warfare. Noel reflects on why the area was abandoned, understanding that it held no value to anyone. However, she believes there is potential wealth hidden beneath the land as she read about it in the novel. She corrects herself, realizing that she didn't see it, but rather read about it. Noel explains that the land itself isn't the focus, rather, it's what is buried beneath it that matters. Orden expresses surprise, questioning if there is something buried there. Nola glares at him, indicating that it would require a lengthy explanation to answer his question and asks him not to interrupt her. Nola begins to explain, addressing Orden's familiarity with the subject. She mentions records indicating that the continent was once divided into 4 distinct lands during ancient times. Although these lands have since become unified, each of the 4 lands contained a different type of mana in the past. Noel notes that the Ainel's March sits on the border of 2 of these lands. Rupert acknowledges the common belief that bordering lands are barren due to the inability of different kinds of mana to fuse. He mentions that crops don't grow well on his land for this reason, but questions the relevance of this to their discussion. Nola explains that the area she mentions sits on the junction of 3 different lands, making it even more barren than the March. She grins, noting that this is why it's cheap. Orden warns that cheap lands aren't always beneficial, especially if they serve no purpose. Nola becomes angry, reiterating that the land itself isn't the focal point of their discussion. Rupert questions Noel's statement about something being buried underneath the land. Noel confirms this, expressing happiness. She recounts information she received about a greedy race of creatures from ancient times who used to live in such places. According to the story, they died atop the gold and jewels they had amassed. Rupert inquires about the race, and Noel reveals that they are dragons. This revelation shocks both Rupert and Orden. In this universe, people are familiar with dragons since the novel is set in a fantasy world. However, in the current era, people only know them as legends or through their remains, similar to how dinosaurs are viewed in the modern world. Despite this, it's evident that dragons had existed in the past. Nola suggests that if they dig the land, they might find the dragon's tomb with plenty of gold and riches, possibly in the dragon's skeleton. She reflects on how, in the novel, the female lead carved a sword out of a dragon bone. Anxious, Orden questions the certainty of Noel's claims as they haven't established any findings about dragon habitats. Rupert echoes Orden's concerns, asking how Noel knows about these things. Noel reflects on the situation, anticipating skepticism from Rupert and Orden. She knows that the concept of dragons preferring areas where mana doesn't fuse is yet to be discovered, revealed only through a future thesis published by the Academy. Realizing that they won't believe her if she mentions knowing the future, she decides to fabricate a lie. Noel acknowledges Rupert and Orden's questioning and admits that the thesis is still in progress and yet to be published. Orden questions how Noel obtained such information. Noel reflects on her response, deciding to mix a lie with some truth. She tells them that she received the information through her cousin Mihil. Rupert recognizes Mihil as the Archmage. Noel confirms and explains that Mihil informed her it's something new he discovered, but it will soon become public knowledge when the thesis is published. Noel reflects on Mihil Varus, the renowned and talented Archmage in the country, who also happens to be her distant cousin, with whom she has maintained a close relationship since childhood. Despite not seeing each other frequently, they have stayed in regular correspondence, and he even attended her wedding. Orden acknowledges Mihul's reputation, suggesting that if what Noel says is true, it's worth checking. Rupert, however, expresses skepticism about the matter. Rupert expresses suspicion towards Noel, suggesting she has an ulterior motive. Anxious, Noel questions whether she failed to persuade him. Rupert's suspicion stems from his belief that Noel wouldn't act in a way that benefits his family. Noel acknowledges her past actions, admitting Rupert's grounds for suspicion, but insists she's telling the truth this time, pleading for his trust. Rupert remains doubtful, stating that people don't change overnight. Rupert grabs Noel's shoulders, demanding to know who influenced her actions. Noel is taken aback by the accusation and expresses disbelief. Rupert, visibly angry, accuses her of having an affair and suggests that someone manipulated her for financial gain. Anxious, Noel reflects on her expectation of Rupert's suspicion, but didn't anticipate being accused of infidelity. Rupert suggests that someone clever manipulated Noel into mentioning Mihul Varys. Noel vehemently denies the accusation, yelling at Rupert. He reacts with incredulity, questioning her, calling him ridiculous. Annoyed, Noel reflects on her frustration. Rupert warns of an impending investigation to uncover the truth, to which Noel defiantly agrees. Rupert acknowledges her stance and Noel reaffirms her position. In a fit of rage, Noel points her finger accusingly at Rupert, demanding a formal apology for besmirching her name with his absurd accusation. Despite her anger, she reflects on her past behavior, acknowledging her flaws but adamantly denying any affair. Rupert cautiously promises to apologize if her claims are proven true, further infuriating Noel, who insists that he must stay true to his word. Rupert questions if Noel has nothing to hide, prompting her firm affirmation. He proposes signing a contract, which piques Noel's interest. Rupert explains that he will lend her the money but with terms of his choosing, causing Noel to hesitate, expressing her concern about the fairness of the arrangement. She requests clarity on what Rupert expects from her in exchange for the loan. Rupert's statement suggests interest on my part. Noel expresses her desire to know the terms, indicating cautious interest. She wonders about the potential consequences, perhaps fearing extreme demands. Rupert smirks in response, seemingly pleased with her concern, and instructs Orden to prepare the contract. After some time, Rupert decides to brief her on the crucial details. He starts by stating that she will have to repay 5 times the amount borrowed. Noel reacts with shock, unable to believe the terms. Rupert confirms the condition, leading her to question if he's operating like a loan shark. He chuckles at her reaction, suggesting that if her claims about the land are valid, it should provide more than enough to cover the repayment. Noel realizes with a sudden clarity. She ponders, understanding Rupert's intentions. He wants to test if she'll agree to borrow the money despite the absurd terms, perhaps for Rupert's stake. However, she vehemently denies any affair. Determined to dispel Rupert's suspicions once and for all, she resolves to accept the terms. When Noel agrees aloud, Rupert notes her confidence, warning her about the upcoming condition. She feels fear creeping in, reflecting on what it might entail, hoping it won't lead to dire consequences if she fails to pay. Noel's sarcasm drips as she suggests an absurd action. Rupert, however, fails to grasp the humor and advises against it, citing potential damage to House Ainel's reputation. Noel reflects on his lack of humor. Rupert proceeds to reveal the second condition. Failing to repay the debt would result in relocating her residence to the outbuilding. Noel is stunned by this development. Rupert outlines the consequences. All privileges at Ainel Manor will be revoked, and she'll be confined to the manor for essential purposes only. Moreover, she's forbidden from punishing the servants. Nervously, she ponders this development, realizing Rupert's leniency was deceptive. Noel summarizes her predicament, acknowledging she'll essentially be a powerless marchioness with restricted freedom. Rupert confirms her understanding, expressing frustration at her tarnishing his family name. Noel reflects on the futility of her explanations to Rupert. They held no significance to him, as her truthfulness mattered little. Rupert, unmoved, regards the situation as the wager of her lifetime. Noel further reflects, realizing that if she had lied, Rupert could have easily used it as a pretext to strip her of authority through legitimate channels. Angered by his tactics, she concludes that Rupert's terms demonstrate his disdain towards her, portraying him as more of a villain than herself. Rupert poses the question, "Do you accept?" Noel, feeling frustrated, reflects on her desire to slap him even just once. However, she finds solace in a clause allowing her to retain profits from the investment. Despite recognizing the contract's absurdity, she acknowledges her limited options. With a display of confidence, she accepts all the conditions, sealing the deal. Rupert and Orden are taken aback by her unexpected acceptance. Noel adds a final request, insisting that the knights directly under Rupert's command should scout the land, with the inclusion of the Raven Knights in the search party. Rupert questions her reasoning. She is well aware of the Raven Knights' prowess, being a hand-picked elite group by Rupert himself, comprising powerful individuals and one of the most esteemed orders in the Empire, to which the female lead of the novel belongs. She asserts her reasoning confidently, stating that the skills of the Raven Knights are unmatched. Rupert acquiesces with a simple acknowledgement. Noel signs the contract outwardly, but internally seethes with anger, feeling insulted by the implied judgment in their gazes. She questions Rupert's understanding, doubting whether he believes she would jeopardize herself for an affair. Finally, she announces her departure once the proceedings conclude. Noel feels a sense of relief knowing that she has secured the necessary funds to survive. However, she acknowledges that obtaining the money hasn't resolved all her problems. She hopes that fulfilling the agreement will improve Rupert's attitude towards her. Shortly afterward, Rupert fulfills his promise by dispatching a party of the Raven Knights to the area. Often questions the reason behind scouting such a remote location, to which Captain of the Raven Knights, Bert, advises caution, emphasizing that they don't question the orders of their lordship. Lord grumbles, expressing doubt that it's their lordship's order, suspecting Lady Enel's involvement instead. Knight Hillis reminds him to maintain decorum and abide by the Knight's code, which prohibits idle talk about noble ladies. Lorne expresses his anger, questioning why their lordship must adhere to Lady Enel's demands. Bert interjects, reprimanding him. Lorne feels embarrassed by the interruption. Knight Hillis points out the contrast, teasing Lorne and praising Sir Aaron's composure despite joining the Raven Knights later than others. Just then, Aaron halts, sensing something unusual. Bert agrees, having sensed it too. Aaron dismounts his horse and begins tapping the ground with his sword. He remarks on the strangeness of the situation. Hillis questions Aaron's actions, prompting him to explain that the sound the ground makes is odd. Puzzled, Hillis inquires further, leading Aaron to suggest that the ground beneath them might be hollow. He asks Sir Loret to strike the ground with mana. Lorne, a bit puzzled, agrees to give it a try. Loret uses his mana to peer beneath the land, but initially, nothing happens. Suddenly, a rumbling sound emerges and a pit forms in the ground, causing him to fall into it. Everyone is left speechless and nervous. Aaron suggests they proceed into the pit. Hillis nervously laughs, remarking on Aaron's surprising decisiveness despite his appearance. They all enter and are astonished to find gold and silver within. Lorne reacts with awe, while Hillis expresses confusion about the discovery. Aaron reveals that it's a dragon's tomb, surprising Hillis. Aaron acknowledges that Ladyship's intuition was correct this time. Then Nola carries a large sack over to Rupert, commenting on its weight. Excitedly, she opens the door to his office and empties the sack, revealing a multitude of gold coins. After seeing the contents, Rupert is left speechless. Nola laughs, teasing him and expecting a response. Feeling triumphant, she reflects on her victory and eagerly awaits his formal apology. Rupert, unsure of how to respond, offers to fulfill a material request like a new dress or jewelry, which surprises Noelle. Puzzled, she wonders if he forgot the promise he made. Rupert queries what she desires. Noelle reiterates her request for a genuine apology, reminding him of his previous promise. Rupert appears taken aback by the notion of apologizing. Noelle urges him to fulfill his word and stop feigning ignorance of the concept. Reflecting on his apparent lack of apologies, she wonders how he navigates life without ever expressing remorse. Encouraging him to seize the opportunity, she emphasizes the importance of taking the first step. However, Rupert remains silent, offering no response. Noelle gloats, enjoying the moment of victory and taunting Rupert to hurry up with his apology. She reminds him of the insult he made by accusing her of having an affair. Despite teasing him, she internally fears the potential consequences of making him apologize. Rupert begrudgingly offers his apology, admitting fault for doubting her. Nola reflects on his lack of genuine remorse and considers that he might feel humiliated by apologizing for the first time. She accepts his apology with a nonchalant response. Rupert questions if that's all she wants, and Noel confirms it. He expresses surprise, expecting her to demand more. Noel blushes, acknowledging her own faults. Rupert sighs, questioning the purpose of their interaction. Noel explains that it's a gesture of peace and a commitment to a better future together. Rupert wonders about her intentions since she wasn't having an affair or running away with the money. Noel insists she has no ulterior motives, but she reflects on Rupert's lingering suspicion towards her. Rupert scoffs, expressing disbelief at Noel's claim of having no ulterior motives. He accuses her of harboring resentment towards him since their first meeting and constantly referring to him as an illegitimate heir. Noel becomes saddened by his accusations, realizing she doesn't have a response. Reflecting on her past actions, she understands why Rupert remains hostile towards her. Rupert steps closer to her, expressing confusion over her sudden change in demeanor. He questions if her family instructed her to act this way. Noel denies any influence from her family, leaving Rupert puzzled about her intentions. Noel explains that her sole desire is for them to have a happy and wholesome life together, without any ulterior motives. She emphasizes her commitment to their relationship by investing and admitting fault in her actions towards the servants, hoping to bring them closer. Rupert laughs at her statement, dismissing it as absurd lies and expressing his distrust in her ability to be honest. He instructs her to leave, and Noel complies, bidding him not to overwork himself before departing. In the end, Noel acknowledges that her relationship with Rupert remains stagnant. However, the discovery of the dragon's tomb proves beneficial, as it enables her to repay all her debts to him and earn substantial profits far exceeding her stipend. Despite this success, her greatest challenge remains ensuring the safety of herself and her daughter. Noel sighs, acknowledging the difficulty of this task. She reflects on the state of her relationship with Rupert, noting that his trust in her has reached rock bottom while his hostility towards her is at its peak. She finds it upsetting that their relationship has deteriorated to its worst possible state. Her daughter, Leah Enel, notices her mother's unease and inquires if something is troubling her. Noel flinches at the sudden question, realizing she had become distracted. She reflects on the pleasant moment she had shared with her daughter, having tea together in the garden. Noel describes Leah's appearance, noting her blonde hair inherited from herself and Rupert's red eyes. In truth, she is the child Rupert and her had after they consummated their marriage out of obligation. Noel reassures Leah that everything is fine, urging her not to worry. Leah expresses her relief at her mother's response. Despite being only 5 years old, Leah is already cautious around Noel. Neither Noel nor Rupert gave her much attention, as their mutual animosity prevented them from showing affection to a child born out of obligation. Consequently, Leah spent her early years under the care of servants, receiving little attention from anyone. When she regained memories of her past life, she was horrified to realize the neglect Leah had endured. She felt the urge to blame herself for her actions, questioning what she was thinking and acknowledging that neglect is a form of child abuse. However, she's grateful to have regained her senses and is determined to start taking care of Leah as a mother should. Yet she worries if it's too late to form a close bond with Leah, hoping she can still establish a meaningful relationship with her daughter. Noel asks Leah what she enjoys doing lately, and Leah responds with studying. Noel expresses surprise at this answer. Reflecting on Leah's response, Noel suspects she's lying, assuming Leah said that in hopes of receiving praise. Noel encourages Leah to be honest with her, assuring her that anything that makes her happy will also bring joy to Noel. Leah, surprised by this response, seeks confirmation from Noel, who reassures her that she can indeed be honest. Leah excitedly reveals her love for drawing, prompting an enthusiastic response from Noel. She eagerly asks Leah to show her the drawing she made. Leah agrees and presents her artwork depicting Noel, her father, and herself. Overwhelmed by the gesture, Noel reflects on her shortcomings as a mother, but is touched that Leah portrayed her smiling. However, Noel notices that her husband doesn't have a face in the drawing. Leah explains that she doesn't remember his face because he's always busy. Noel, feeling angry at herself for neglecting such a sweet child, resolves to repent for her actions. She also directs her frustration towards Rupert, recognizing his role in the neglect as well. Leah nervously asks if her mother is angry, to which Noel reassures her she's not. Noel embraces Leah, apologizing for not giving her enough attention. Reflecting on Leah's innocence, Noel is disturbed by the thought that her sweet daughter might be killed by her own father, considering it a tragedy. Leah hesitates, addressing her mother, but Noel corrects her, preferring to be called Mommy. Leah is surprised by the sudden change in address. Leah begins to speak, but Noel interrupts, insisting that she address her as Mommy. Leah blushes and stammers out the word. Noel is overwhelmed by Leah's cuteness and embraces her once more. Regret floods Noel as she wonders how Rupert could resist spending time with such an adorable child. She also regrets her own past neglect. Noel expresses her admiration for Leah, marveling at how lovely and wonderful she is, unable to believe that Leah is her daughter. She revels in the joy of the moment, finding it to be the best feeling. The maid interrupts, announcing that tea is served. Noel recalls requesting more tea and realizes she forgot about it. She awkwardly instructs Leah to return to her seat. Leah complies and leaves. Noel reflects on her role as a marchioness, resolving to behave with class and dignity. She directs the maid to pour the tea, noticing the maid's trembling hands. Noel ponders that she hasn't seen this maid before and speculates that she might be new. She assumes the maid is nervous due to rumors about her. The maid, who was supposed to serve tea to Leah, approaches with the tea tray. Noel watches anxiously, worried that the maid might spill the tea. Nervous, the maid begins to pour the tea for Lady Leah, apologizing for any inconvenience. Suddenly, the tea kettle slips from the maid's hand, falling directly onto Leah's hand. Leah cries out in pain as the hot tea scalds her. Noel shouts in concern for Leah's well-being. Other maids rush over, addressing Noel and inquiring about Leah's condition, expressing concern and asking if she's hurt. Noel directs her anger towards the maid, insisting that they look after Leah's well-being first. Reflecting on the situation, she emphasizes that regardless of their fear of her, their immediate concern should be for Leah. The other maids, hesitant and faltering, express uncertainty about whether they can assist Leah. Noelle lifts Leah and becomes frustrated with the maids, deeming them useless. She carries Leah towards a nearby water fountain, where she carefully places Leah's burned hand under the running water. Noelle watches Leah with concern, acknowledging the pain she must be experiencing. Leah, teary-eyed, insists that she's fine. Noelle wonders if Leah is suppressing her emotions out of fear that Noelle might dislike her for showing vulnerability, even in such a situation. Noelle kisses Leah on the forehead, reassuring her that it's okay to cry when in pain and that she will never hate her for it. Emotional Leah seeks confirmation from Noelle, who reaffirms her statement. Overwhelmed with emotion, Leah begins to cry openly and hugs Noelle, addressing her as Mommy. Noelle comforts her, assuring her that everything's okay now. Noelle reflects on Leah's sweet and kind-hearted nature. Despite her pain, Leah tried to endure it just to win her mother's affection. So Noelle consoles the little child, recognizing her efforts and longing for maternal love. Noelle and Leah, checking, think it's fortunate it's only a mild burn. The tea probably wasn't too hot, but they notice some blisters starting to form. Noelle pats Leah's head reassuringly, telling her not to worry, assuring her it should heal quickly with some treatment. Leah sniffs, affirming she's not scared. Noelle reflects on Leah's maturity, wishing she'd act more her age. The maid announces the doctor's arrival, and the doctor greets Lady Ainel and Lady Leah. During Leah's checkup, the doctor examines her and concludes they'll need to pop the blisters, which shocks Leah. Noelle reacts with surprise, questioning the necessity. The doctor explains that it's standard practice for treating burns, prompting Noelle to press for a specific reason. The doctor laughs, assuring her it's the fastest way to treat the burn. Noelle ponders about the doctor's vague response, wondering if he's withholding information because he doesn't believe she deserves to know. As the Marquess of House Ainel, she feels offended by the perceived disrespect. Gritting her teeth, she restrains her anger, knowing that losing her temper would only harm her reputation further. Recalling her past life working in a hospital, she realizes she also possesses medical knowledge and experience. Noelle advises that if the burn isn't severe, there's no need to pop the blisters, as it could increase the risk of infection. Reflecting on the proper treatment for burns, she acknowledges that the approach varies depending on the severity. While popping blisters can expedite healing, it also heightens the risk of infection, since germs can enter the wound. Considering Leah's mild burn, she concludes it's better not to pop the blisters. Additionally, she notes that disinfectants aren't as accessible as they were in her past life. Noelle suggests that if they let the burn heal naturally, it won't leave a scar. The doctor attempts to argue, but Noelle interrupts, questioning his authority as the resident doctor of House Ainel. She believes the family doctor should likely be an elderly man. The doctor nervously explains that his teacher, presumably the usual family doctor, was temporarily unavailable. Noelle reflects on the doctor's status as a pupil, understanding his relative inexperience. She speculates that he's likely doing his best to apply what he's learned so far. Recognizing the differences in medical knowledge between her past practice and the current situation, she contemplates how to resolve the issue without causing a disturbance. She suggests a plan to monitor the burn's progress for a few days without popping the blisters. If the situation deteriorates, they can then consider popping them. She acknowledges that theoretical knowledge doesn't always translate into the best practical solution. Observing Noelle's intelligence in action, everyone is surprised. The medical student stammers a response, affirming Noelle's suggestion. The maids express admiration, commenting on Noelle's coolness. Noelle, taken aback by the reactions, wonders why everyone is responding in such a manner. The student offers to bandage Lady Leah's wound, but Leah becomes apprehensive and pulls her hand away as soon as the student tries to apply the bandage. Nervously, the student addresses Leah, expressing the difficulty of wrapping the wound if she continues to retract her hand. Noelle sighs, reflecting on the impracticality of expecting a scared child to comply with such words. She then steps in, taking charge, and declares that she will handle the task herself. Noelle sits in front of Leah, gently holding her hand. She engages Leah in conversation, diverting her attention as she begins to wrap the bandage around Leah's hand without her noticing. Noelle asks Leah about her interests, and Leah mentions she enjoys drawing animals. Noelle further inquires about her favorite animal, suggesting rabbits, puppies, or cats. Leah excitedly reveals that puppies are her favorite. Noelle shares her affection for puppies and suggests they draw puppies together next time. As the maids and medical student whisper in amazement, Noelle overhears their comments but decides to ignore them and pretend she didn't hear anything. Meanwhile, she finishes bandaging Leah's hand, surprising Leah when she realizes it's already done. Leah expresses her happiness, admitting she forgot Noelle was wrapping the bandage. Noelle then kisses Leah on the forehead, thinking to herself how adorable Leah is. Noelle asks Leah how the bandaging went, reassuring her that it didn't hurt. Leah beams, confirming it didn't hurt at all and praising Noel's skill. Internally, Noel can't contain her excitement at Leah's sweetness. Sternly, she addresses the medical student, advising him to try Noel's approach when treating children in the future. The student agrees, acknowledging Noel's superior skills despite his 2 years of study, and resolves to study and train harder. Reflecting on the student, Noel appreciates his ability to recognize his imperfections. She then kisses Leah on the cheek, expressing her pride in Leah's calmness. As the treatment concludes, Noel feels a sense of accomplishment. The maid trembles in fear, apologizing to Noel and fearing punishment. Noel reflects on the situation, realizing that the maid is terrified of her. She acknowledges her anger, not because of the accident itself, but because Leah was the one who got hurt. Aware of Leah's presence and the need to handle the situation wisely, Noel leans in and whispers to Leah, asking her opinion on what to do about the maid who caused her harm. Leah's whispered response surprises Noel, making her realize that Leah is aware of how she's been treating the servants. Noel feels a mix of surprise and guilt, wondering if Leah resents her for being a bad mother. However, Leah's nervous response reassures her that she doesn't hate her, but rather wants everyone to see Noel as pretty and amazing. Touched by Leah's kindness, Noel reflects on her daughter's sweetness. Overwhelmed with emotion, she kisses Leah on the cheek, expressing her affection. Leah is taken aback by the sudden display of affection, but Noel brushes it off, declaring that her reputation doesn't matter compared to Leah's well-being. In a whispered conversation, Noel suggests brainstorming together for a solution regarding the maid. Leah proposes that the maid could assist her with tasks since she can't use her right hand due to the burn. Leah believes that seeing her struggle because of the injury will make the maid feel sorry as well. Noel clarifies if Leah means the maid would feel sorry for hurting her, to which Leah confirms, saying she would feel sorry too if she hurt someone. Understanding Leah's perspective, Noel acknowledges her daughter's empathy. Noel reflects on Leah's attempt to express the feeling of guilt, acknowledging her daughter's thoughtfulness despite her young age. Agreeing with Leah's suggestion, Noel turns to the maid and asks for her name, which is Jenna. Noel then addresses Jenna, making sure she understands the gravity of her mistake. Jenna, visibly shaken, apologizes, expressing genuine remorse for her actions. Noel believes in maintaining a balance in a society with a rigid social hierarchy, avoiding abuse of power while also being firm to prevent servants from taking advantage. Despite her inclination not to show mercy, she decides to heed Leah's suggestion this time. Addressing Jenna, she instructs her to stand up. The other servants are astonished by Noel's unexpected decision, unable to believe that the Marchioness refrained from punishing Jenna. Noel commands Jenna to attend to Leah until her hand heals, emphasizing the importance of understanding her duties. Jenna acknowledges her instructions and promises to serve Leah to the best of her abilities. Noel reflects on how this decision should encourage everyone to take better care of Leah. Jenna expresses her gratitude and assures Noel that she will do her best. Noel sternly warns Jenna that any repeated mistakes will result in dismissal. Jenna agrees and pledges that it won't happen again. Noel reflects on the resolution of the situation with Jenna, noting her genuine remorse for Leah's injury. She realizes that the fear and wariness of the servants towards her may have been detrimental. With the recent hiring of new servants, she sees an opportunity to alter their impression of her. While they may have heard rumors of her severity, they have yet to experience it firsthand. Noel hopes that this incident will change their opinions of her. Understanding that it takes both reward and punishment to manage people, and she's primarily relied on the latter. Noel informs Leah that their tea time must end, to which Leah responds sadly. Noel feels touched by Leah's lack of complaint. However, she decides to spend more quality time with her daughter and suggests playing together and drawing puppies. This suggestion brings joy to Leah's face, and Noel is amazed by the thought of having such a lovely child as her daughter. She is determined to ensure that Leah avoids her tragic fate, but she grapples with the question of how to accomplish this goal. Noel realizes the urgency of her situation, understanding that there are less than 3 weeks left before she and Leah are destined to be murdered.